Well, hello guys. It has been a very long time. I have been busy with life in general back in California, and you may recall my couple of my last videos last year in Taiwan, and I had been traveling around Philippines and Thailand with a female friend from the Philippines, and then the virus hit, and Taiwan seemed to be a good place to hang out while things were passing. And then I went to California. I am sad, of course, like everybody else following the Philippines, that foreign tourists are not allowed into the country, but Thailand is still open, even though pandemic is still raging there. Thailand is still open. I filed for tourist visa this week. As a matter of fact, I was very impressed. I sent in my details and documentation to the consulate, Thailand consulate in Los Angeles, got it back within a couple of days, so I was very impressed. So I'm ready to fly out to Thailand, just hoping that the current wave they're in there is going to die down a little bit before I go. Although I'm vaccinated, I'm not worried. I still want to, have a normal life, restaurants open, and people not being totally locked up at home. So I'm waiting just a little bit before I will execute on my brand new tourist visa to Thailand. I wish I could go back to Philippines, but I cannot. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I don't see Philippines opening up for foreign tourists until the end of the year. Of course, it's possible they might open up like a travel bubble to Cebu or something with vaccinated tourists. Note the word vaccinated. That is possible, and they're also trying to do the same thing in Phuket, Thailand. So the governments, they know tourism brings in money and dollars from Americans and possibly Europeans. So be ready for that. That might happen, but general tourism in the Philippines is not going to happen this year, I predict. That's just my opinion. It's not official. So what do we do in the meantime? Well, you can do online dating, or you can educate yourself about what it's like to live in the Philippines or Thailand. There are lots of possible choices for good apartments, and the rest of this video is going to show one of the many, I think it's about 10 or 12 videos of my video course, and how to find good apartments in the Philippines, and specifically in Legazpi Village, Makati. There are many places to live in the Philippines, and some people, they live in Dumaguete, some people say Cebu is the greatest thing. I say Legazpi Village in Makati is the greatest things for two reasons. It's very clean and modern and westernized, and you have the top hospital in the Philippines within walking distance, within 1 block from Legazpi Village. So don't just take the YouTube bloggers' comments about how Manila is the dirtiest, worst hole in the world and just stay away from it, fly to Cebu or some other city. I don't agree with that. I think Legazpi Village in Makati is super clean. It's Western standard quality all around, although they don't have a beach, really good beach in near Manila. You have to drive about 2 hours to get to a decent beach. But for a city boy like me, Legazpi Village, Makati, it's the only place to live, in my opinion, in the Philippines. So the rest of this video is going to show the one of 3 videos that are about how to find a good apartment in Makati. And if you want the rest of the course, you can order it online. I think it's about $30 now. The link is below this video in the description area if you're interested, and you can watch the other 2 videos about good apartments, and I'm actually showing footage from apartments I've lived in. And the other 7 or so videos that I have in the video course is about dating, how to get by and learn some of the ins and outs of the Philippines, etc. So it's a very good value, and you can order it, like I said, at the link below this video. In this video we are going to cover where to live in Makati, what are the costs, and I'm going to show some actual footage from the places I've lived in Makati, and I'm going to show some of the links to the websites where you can make your own bookings, the actual rooms where I have stayed. When you're staying in Makati, there's a trade-off between long-term and short-term. If you are expecting to stay only a few weeks, perhaps as much as a couple of months, I recommend Airbnb. You don't have to deal with deposits and rental leases and utilities, etc. You can just sign up with Airbnb. If you haven't already, you can use my referral link below this video, and you'll get 55% rebate or discount on your first booking if you use my link. Of course, you can use hotels, but it's probably about 50% more expensive. You can get an hotel for $100 a night, $200 a night, around $50 a night in the popular area around Greenbelt. But after Airbnb came to the world, I've never used hotels ever again. I highly recommend using an Airbnb location. The rooms are bigger and it feels like you're part of real life in Makati, not just a travel hotel or a business hotel. On this map you can see the concentrations of the Airbnb listings. There are mainly 3 areas, and you can see it on the map here in the lower side. This is Legazpi Village, and then we got Salcedo Village around here, and then we got the Bel Air area around here, which is kind of the red, next to the red light district. Those are the kind of 3 concentrations of apartments in Makati. I personally like the San Lorenzo Legazpi Village area. It's very convenient, no need to take taxi anywhere. It's next to all the action, nightlife, grocery stores, good restaurants, both Filipino and international. So that's my favorite. I've lived in these other 2 areas here, especially the red light district. I try to stay away from. It's too noisy. They play music late at night and you can hear it in your apartment, so it's hard to even sleep. But one of the main things you should, 2 things you should ask when you think about getting an Airbnb apartment is to contact the owner, and you ask him 2 things. You ask him, do they have a split level aircon? If you don't know, that's a type where the air condition has a condenser outside your room and the fan is on the inside, and it's very quiet. It's not like the window air condition type where it sounds like a motorbike is on all night long when you're sleeping. I personally am a light sleeper, and when I work on the computer as well, I don't like motorcycles in my room. It sounds to me like a motorcycle when the window air condition is on, because there's obviously no sound isolation between the window outside and the inside. But the split level aircon, it has a condenser usually on the other side of a cement wall, so the sound is very, very low. That's the first thing you should ask your potential landlord. Sometimes you can see it directly from the picture, and we'll try to click on one here. As you can see from this screenshot, there are over 3,000 active Airbnb rentals in Makati alone. Average price is $44 a night. It varies depending on the season. But what you should do when you make an Airbnb booking is to check on the internet speed and does the host have a Windows aircon or split level aircon. The positives about Airbnb is, of course, a bigger space, no utilities, no extra charges. You should make sure to find out what the understanding is with the exchange of door keys, or if there is a self check-in procedure, what is the security of the apartment, will they know you're coming. Sometimes I've been surprised when I show up and the building doesn't allow Airbnb hosting in the building, so you kind of have to hush hush, not talk about it, and sort of come in as a friend who's visiting the apartment. It's like a little bit weird in my opinion. Airbnb is growing, it's very active, but you need to find out if it's facing, the apartment is facing a noisy street, what floor it is on, is it facing the sunny side or the sunset side. Depending on the direction, you might get some heat through the windows, but hands down, there's no debate. Airbnb is the way to go for short-term stays, anywhere from a few weeks to a couple of months. Once you start getting into a couple of months, yes, switch from Airbnb to monthly rentals with a lease and a deposit and so forth, because you will save some money. I would estimate maybe you can save as much as 50% when you go to a long-term lease versus Airbnb, so it's worth checking into. I've lived in a studio apartment in Makati for $600 a month, so it's quite reasonable. But you can also find large apartments where you pay thousands of dollars per month, but that's not what I want to do with my money. I prefer just to have a place to live and eat and sleep and maybe a little bit of computer work. So a studio is just fine for me. But there you have it. The cost of living is a little bit higher in Makati. It's the central business district. Of course, everybody sort of gravitates towards this upscale kind of Western style area. So for a one-bedroom, it's about 38,000 pesos per month. The utilities for electricity, yeah, you are looking at about 7,600 pesos per month. I would say that's right in the ballpark. I've had my electric bills anywhere from 3,000 to about 8,000. But I'm very careful with my aircon. I turn it off as often as I can. And then the food is, depending on if you eat at Western style restaurants or the local Filipino food on the street. If you go to Greenbelt and start eating out at the Western style restaurants every day, you can expect California or USA prices for every meal, like $10 a meal. But if you go out on the streets and what I call jolly jeeps, those are metal boxes where you basically buy inexpensive food that's freshly cooked right in front of you for like $1, maximum $2 a plate or a meal. That's what I usually try to do, and then they are only available during lunch hour, but sometimes I buy double during lunch and take one bag or doggy bag with me back home to eat for dinner. So it can be quite reasonable. But if you go to the Western style restaurants, expect to pay American or Western prices. They know that foreigners are used to or willing to pay good money for Western style food. And if you absolutely must stay in a hotel, you don't want to use Airbnb for some reason, you can try the business hotel that I've stayed in a number of times before Airbnb came on the scene, Tower Inn in Makati. It's reasonably priced and it's clean. It's not a high-end hotel, but it's usually priced around $50. And the rooms are small, but you know, if you just want a quick place to stay for a night or whatever, I recommend this. Let's see, the room rates are around 2,500 pesos. Yeah, that's about $50 per night. You can get some of the deluxe and superior rooms. They're a little bit nicer. But take a look. If you call them in person, sometimes they will give a discount. So it's not an automatic online order booking system. You have to actually call them and reserve or email them. Let's see here, if you click the make reservations, yeah, so you have to email them. But I usually call them on the phone, and I can also ask for a discount at the same time. So Makati is a area within Metro Manila. It's the central business district. It's the financial center of the entire Philippines, and anybody and everybody who is somebody, they will come to Makati sooner or later. They either work there or live there or pass through there to do business. It's an excellent place to meet anybody that's important. If you ever want to do business with Filipinos, corporate wise, this is the place to be, or at least know about. It's sort of 30 minutes by car from the Filipino airport. It's very near, and you can take the express highway. You pay $1 extra, whatever it is, in your cab or your Grab car to take the express freeway, but it's very convenient. I wouldn't live anywhere else like Pasig or Quezon City or Pasay or Taguig, any of these surrounding areas. Quality gets lower, the infrastructure is much more poor, and Makati is upscale. Even when there was typhoons or flooding in the areas around in Metro Manila, in Makati here, there was, when I was living there at the time, there was very little flooding, at least in the apartment where I was living. Everything was functional. The electricity didn't even go out, as far as I can recall. There was some basements around and a couple of streets that had flooding from the typhoon, but everything's very solid. The buildings are great. This is the place you want to live if you go to the Philippines, and they have, you know, Western utilities and amenities everywhere. It gets a little more expensive, but it's not too bad. For a one-bedroom apartment, you pay 38,000 on average. For a studio, I have paid around 30,000 per month. That's about $600. So it's quite reasonable. But you can generally look at paying half of short-term rentals. Like if you go to Airbnb or hotels, renting long-term, you can estimate you pay 50% of what you would pay on Airbnb or with hotels. It's a little bit cheaper on Airbnb. You can estimate maybe 30% cheaper on Airbnb, plus the apartments you'll be getting on Airbnb are bigger, and you get a full kitchen, and you know, it's much more comfortable. So I don't even bother with hotels anymore. And the three areas are Legazpi. The three main areas I recommend you should consider to live in. My favorite is Legazpi Village, which you see here. And then we have a second area which is good, not as good, but it's good, Salcedo Village. And then we got the red light district, which is kind of up here in the corner. If I can draw this correctly, they are kind of up in this area. The red light area is a street here called Burgos Street. There's a lot of people that live around Bel Air here. There's a big apartment called Jazz Residence over here. It has it's a huge complex with big swimming pools. There's like 6,000 apartments just in 3 or 4 buildings. It's very big, but the location is inconvenient because to get to any action you need to go down here into Greenbelt Park and malls and shops and restaurants, or you can walk from Jazz over to Burgos, the red light district here, but it's a good 15-20 minutes walk. And most expats, if they're interested in the red light district, they live kind of around here on each side of Makati Avenue, as it's spelled. They short it down to Makati Ave. So if you're interested in the red light district, yeah, then you should be around here. If you're interested in more normal living, live in Legazpi Village and walk over, never need taxi, walk over to Greenbelt Park and the malls and the restaurants over here. If you live in Salcedo Village around here, it's a mixture of things. You can walk to Greenbelt Park. It's, 10-minute walk. And there are some good restaurants popping up now in Salcedo Village. So that is a good place, but it's some similar pricing to Legazpi Village. So why not just go to Legazpi Village, which is right next to Greenbelt Park and the restaurants there. No need to go to Salcedo Village. Like I said, you have the red light district up in Burgos Street. So those are the kind of 3 areas that you should consider when you go to Makati.